My name is Celine, and this is the story of how the man I trusted with my future tried to empty my savings and leave me with nothing. He thought money was power. He thought draining my account meant draining my spirit. But he forgot one truth: reputations can be destroyed without raising a hand, and I was patient enough to let him bury himself. The night it began, I sat in front of my laptop, staring at a number that should not have been possible. The balance in my account was half of what it had been the month before. My pulse hammered. I blinked, refreshed the screen, and the number stayed the same. Missing. Gone. The number that represented years of careful work and quiet sacrifice had been siphoned away like water through a crack in the floor. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A glitch. Banks make errors, right? I picked up the phone and waited through the hold music, each note ringing like an alarm bell I could not silence. When the representative finally spoke, her voice was calm, professional, devastating. "Ma'am, the transfers were authorized. From your joint account. The requests came from your partner." The words landed like glass shattering in my chest. My partner. Adrian. The man who kissed my forehead every morning. The man who had held my hand while I talked about saving for a house, for a family, for a future. The man who had sworn he loved how careful I was, how steady, how safe. He had drained nearly everything with my name still attached. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. Instead, I sat very still, staring at the glow of the screen, as if my stillness could rewind time. But time does not rewind. It only pushes forward, forcing you to decide here when the floor disappears beneath you. That night, Adrian came home whistling. Whistling. He tossed his jacket onto the chair and kissed me like nothing had happened. "You look tense," he said. "Long day?" I studied his face, the familiar lines, the easy charm that had once disarmed me. And for the first time, I wondered if I had ever seen the real man behind the smile. "Adrian," I said softly, "where is the money?" He froze for half a second, a tiny flicker in his expression that told me everything I needed to know. Then he smiled again. Smoother this time, too smooth. "What money?" "Oh, you mean the transfers?" "Babe, relax. I just moved it to another account. Better interest. You will thank me later. Better interest." That was his story. A story he thought I would accept because I had always trusted him. But something inside me shifted in that moment. I did not shout. I did not accuse. I simply nodded, as if I believed him. Because in that silence, I made a choice. This was not going to end with me as the victim. This was going to end with Adrian's reputation in ruins, every lie he had told laid bare for the world to see. And I was going to do it legally. The next morning, I woke before Adrian. He slept soundly, sprawled across the bed like a man who had no secrets, no guilt. I studied him for a long moment, wondering how many lies I had mistaken for love. My hands shook as I opened my laptop again. I went deeper this time. Transaction history, line by line. Transfer after transfer, small enough to look ordinary, spread out over months. Not just one mistake. A pattern. Hundreds, then thousands, siphoned out like drops of blood until the account was pale and weak. He had been doing this for almost a year. I pressed my hand against my mouth to stop the sound that wanted to escape. He had not just stolen from me. He had prepared this. Planned it. All while looking me in the eye, telling me I was safe with him. Adrian stirred and rolled toward me, his smile groggy, boyish. "Morning, babe. You were up early." "Yeah," I said. My voice was steady, but my heart was a storm. Couldn't sleep. He kissed my temple, the same lips that had told me every dream was ours. "Don't worry so much. I've got us covered." Covered. I almost laughed at the word. He thought this was covered. He thought I was still blind. Later that day, I called my bank again. I wanted confirmation. I asked for copies of the transfer requests. The representative hesitated, then explained they could email me the digital authorizations. Within minutes, my inbox filled with documents. I opened the first. There it was. His signature. His smug handwriting, looping across my future like a slash. In that instant, my grief hardened into something else. Resolve. I had two options. I could confront him, Let him twist the truth again. Let him bury me in excuses, or I could wait. Watch. Collect. Because if he had taken this much, then he was not finished. Men like Adrian never stop at almost. They push until they are stopped. That night, he came home late. Too late. His hair was damp, his shirt crisp in a way that did not match the time he claimed to leave the office. I asked no questions. I set dinner on the table. He laughed, told me stories about a client dinner, and I nodded, storing every word. After he fell asleep, I checked his phone. He had locked it months ago, claiming work confidentiality. But technology always leaves shadows. Notifications still flashed across the screen. I caught one before it disappeared, a transfer confirmation. Not to another bank account. To a brokerage. He was gambling. Playing with my future like chips on a table. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to breathe slowly. If I stormed into his lies now, I would lose. He would twist it, call me paranoid, make me doubt my own eyes. No, I would not give him that power again. Instead, I opened a blank document on my laptop and began to type. Dates. Amounts. Notes. Every detail I could gather. I saved it to a hidden drive. One entry became 5. 5 became 20. Proof. Because if Adrian wanted to drain my savings, then I would drain something he valued even more, his reputation. The next day, I met with Mira, my closest friend at work. I did not tell her everything yet. Just enough. Enough to see her jaw tighten, her eyes sharpen with understanding. She reached across the cafe table and gripped my hand. You're not alone, she said. Whatever you're planning, I'm with you. Her words settled inside me like steel. For the first time since the balance dropped, I felt stronger than the fear. But strength is not safety. And Adrian was growing bolder. That evening, he came home with champagne. To us, he said, pouring glasses. To new opportunities. I clinked my glass against his and smiled, all while thinking, yes, Adrian. To new opportunities. But not the ones you think. I drank slowly, memorizing the sound of his laughter. Because soon, very soon, that laugh would turn hollow when the truth came crashing down. And I would be the one holding the mirror. I became a shadow in my own life. To Adrian, I was still the trusting partner who laughed at his stories and poured his coffee in the morning. But behind every nod, every smile, I was counting, recording, building a case brick by brick. Every morning before work, I checked the accounts. I learned to recognize the rhythm of his theft. Small withdrawals on Mondays. A larger one near the 15th, when his office processed bonuses. Transfers late at night, as if darkness made them invisible. I took screenshots. Dozens, then hundreds. I printed statements and slipped them into a binder I kept hidden in my office under an old box of tax forms. If he ever tried to gaslight me, if he ever told me I was imagining things, I would have paper that did not lie. The lies, though, they multiplied. One Thursday, he claimed he had to travel for a conference. He even left a brochure on the counter, as if the glossy pages could convince me more than his words. But the conference had ended 2 months earlier. I checked. I called the number printed on the back. A polite woman confirmed the dates. He had not just lied, he had staged the lie. That night, I followed him. I felt ridiculous at first, hiding 2 cars back, gripping the steering wheel so hard my palms burned. But the feeling shifted when I saw him pull into a restaurant parking lot, not a conference, not a client dinner. A small, upscale place lit by candles in every window. I waited. I watched. And then I saw her. A woman stepped out of the passenger seat. She was younger, her laugh too easy, her hand already sliding into his like she had practiced it for months. Adrian leaned down, kissed her, and for a moment I thought my ribs might crack from holding my breath. He walked into the restaurant with her. And, just like that, the question of why he drained me became clear. He was funding another life. Another love. My hands trembled so badly I almost dropped my phone. But instead, I raised it. Snap. Snap. Pictures through the windshield. Blurry, imperfect, but enough to show him holding her hand, opening her door, looking at her the way he used to look at me. I did not cry. Not then. The tears would come later when the anger quieted and the grief rose. But in that moment, I felt sharp, alive, focused. Back home, I added the photos to the binder. Money transfers, signatures, proof of another woman. The story was writing itself, and I was simply collecting the evidence. Days passed, and I became obsessed. Every password he used, I tried. Some failed. Some worked. I discovered a hidden email account filled with receipts for jewelry, hotels, gifts I never saw. He had bought her a necklace with the money I had saved for a down payment on a house. Each discovery cut deeper. But each cut also made me stronger. Because knowledge is armor, and I was covering every inch of myself. I could not keep this to myself forever. So I called Mira again. This time, I showed her the binder. She flipped through the pages in silence, her jaw tightening. When she reached the photos, she exhaled sharply and looked at me. "Celine," she said, "this isn't just betrayal. It's fraud. And if you want him to pay legally, we need more than anger. We need strategy." The word legally struck me like a bell. I had thought only of revenge, of making him feel the humiliation he had fed me. But Mira was right. If I played this recklessly, he could spin it, twist it, escape. If I played it right, he would have no escape at all. That weekend, I met with a lawyer. A quiet man in a gray suit who asked calm questions and took furious notes. He explained what we could prove, what we would need, and what the consequences could be. When he leaned back, he studied me with eyes that had seen hundreds of cases like mine. "You've got the kind of proof people dream of having in court," he said. "The question is, what do you want to do with it?" I looked down at my binder, at every page filled with my stolen life. And I said the only truth that mattered. I want to end his double life. And I want to do it where everyone can see. The lawyer's mouth curved into something between caution and approval. "Then you'll need a stage," he said. The words stuck in my mind long after I left his office. A stage. Adrian loved stages. He loved being seen, admired, envied. If he wanted a stage, then that is exactly where I would destroy the mask he had worn for years. But as I stepped back into the cold night, I could not shake the feeling that this stage would cost me more than I realized. Mira was the first ally I had, but I knew I could not fight this war with only her by my side. Adrian was charming, calculated. If I accused him in private, he would twist every word until I sounded hysterical. If I whispered in corners, he would laugh louder in public until no one believed me. So I built my circle carefully. The lawyer introduced me to a forensic accountant, a woman named Claire who wore glasses with thin frames and spoke like every sentence had already been weighed. She traced the money Adrian had drained and mapped it out across a dozen accounts. Every stolen dollar had a line, a time, a purpose. Vacations. Jewelry. Rent for an apartment in a city I had never been to. Claire's charts turned my pain into evidence. Cold, precise, undeniable. Next was Marcus, Myra's brother. A photographer by trade, but more importantly, a man who understood discretion. He agreed to shadow Adrian for a week, camera in hand. The photos he captured were brutal in their simplicity. Adrian laughing with the other woman at a cafe. Adrian unlocking her apartment door. Adrian leaving at dawn, tie crooked, shirt untucked, like a boy sneaking home after curfew. Each picture slid into the binder, and each one made the mask he wore at home feel thinner, more fragile. But I needed more than evidence. I needed the right moment. Adrian loved spectacle. He craved admiration. And he had already set the date without realizing it. His company's annual gala. A night of speeches, awards, champagne towers, and flashing cameras. A night where Adrian was scheduled to receive recognition for excellence in leadership. That gala would be his downfall. Mira helped me pull strings. She had contacts in the event staff, people who owed her favors. Quietly, she arranged for me to have access to the program schedule, to the stage layout, to the sound system. The lawyer advised caution. The goal is not humiliation for its own sake, he reminded me. The goal is exposure that cannot be denied. Still, when I pictured Adrian on that stage, smiling with stolen confidence, I felt no guilt. I felt justice. One evening, Mira and I sat at her kitchen table, papers spread across every inch. The binder. Claire's charts. Marcus's photos. You realize, she said, once this happens, nothing will go back to normal. Not for you, not for him. I don't want normal, I replied. Normal was a lie. She nodded slowly, understanding. Then we make sure you control the truth when it breaks. We rehearsed the order. The packet of evidence, scheduled to be emailed to his boss, to the board, to the press, the moment Adrian stepped on stage. The photos projected onto a screen behind him, disguised as part of his presentation. A voice recording of him bragging to the other woman about how easily I believed him, cued to play at the peak of his speech. Every step timed, precise, surgical. But revenge is never just about strategy. It is about heart. And mine still hurt in places I did not want to admit. Late at night, alone, I scrolled through the photos Marcus had taken. Adrian's smile in those moments was the same smile he once used on me. That truth cut deeper than betrayal itself. And yet, every time the grief tried to take me, I opened the binder. Page after page reminded me he had stolen from me, lied to me, built another life with the pieces of mine. This was not just betrayal. This was erasure. And I refused to disappear. The night before the gala, I could not sleep. I sat in bed, binder open, phone buzzing with messages from Mira. All set. Marcus will be there. Claire will monitor the accounts in real time. Everything was ready. Still, my chest felt tight, my hands restless. Because the closer I got to the moment, the more I understood. Once I stepped onto that stage, I would not just be exposing Adrian. I would be exposing myself. My heartbreak. My anger. My truth. And truth has a weight you cannot put down once it is spoken. I closed the binder and whispered to the dark as if my words could steal me. Tomorrow, his stage becomes mine. The morning of the gala, I stood in front of the mirror longer than I ever had. Not because I wanted to look beautiful for Adrian. That part of my life was gone. No, I wanted armor. And tonight, my armor was a dress. Deep red, sharp lines, the kind of dress that speaks before you do. If Adrian wanted to play the hero in a suit, then I would step onto that stage looking like the storm he never saw coming. Mira arrived at my apartment with a bag slung over her shoulder. She tossed it onto my couch and out spilled cords, backup drives, a portable projector. Redundancy, she said simply. If one thing fails, another speaks. I smiled despite the knot in my stomach. You've thought of everything. Not everything, she corrected. We still have to deal with people. And people are unpredictable. That was the risk. Evidence is clean. Strategy is clean. But people? They slip. They panic. They choose sides. Still, we prepared for it all. The lawyer had already packaged the binder into a digital dossier. At exactly 8 o'clock, it would be sent to Adrian's boss, the board members, and thanks to Myra's quiet connections, 2 investigative journalists known for chasing corporate fraud. Marcus had arranged for his photos to be embedded in Adrian's presentation slides. He had disguised the file names so they looked like harmless charts. All Mira would need to do was plug in a flash drive, and the switch would happen. And Claire, the accountant, would monitor Adrian's accounts live. The moment the packet was sent, she would initiate a formal complaint with his bank, citing fraud tied to his misuse of shared funds. Every move had layers. Every layer had a backup. As we rehearsed the order again, Mira stopped and looked at me seriously. Celine, are you ready for the fallout? Because once this begins, it will not stop. He will come at you. He will twist. He will beg. He will threaten. All of it. I held her gaze. My heart thudded once, hard. I know, I said. And I am ready. Still, when I imagined his face, the shock, the desperation, a tremor moved through me. He had stolen so much from me, but what haunted me most was not the money. It was the time. Years I could never reclaim. Love I had poured into a man who carved me hollow. That was why I could not back down. The hours crept by until the city lights blinked awake. By 7, I was standing with Mira outside the hotel ballroom, the air sharp with the scent of polished marble and expensive perfume. Guests in gowns and tuxedos swirled inside, laughing, sipping champagne. All eyes were on the stage, draped in velvet, where Adrian would soon step into his spotlight. Marcus slipped past us, camera slung discreetly over his shoulder. He gave a subtle nod, signal received, all set. Mira leaned close. Once he starts his speech, I'll move to the booth. You'll wait until the right slide hits. Then you walk up. No hesitation. And if something goes wrong? I asked. Her lips curved in a grim smile. Then we improvise. But remember, Celine, the evidence is stronger than his voice. Do not let him drag you into a shouting match. Let the truth speak louder than anger. I nodded, clutching the edge of my red dress like a lifeline. Then I saw him. Adrian. Standing near the stage, laughing with his colleagues, holding a champagne flute like he owned the night. His smile was wide, his shoulders straight, his confidence unshaken. To everyone else, he was the rising star, the man of the hour. But to me, he was a thief standing in borrowed light. The event manager clapped her hands and called everyone to their seats. Adrian adjusted his tie, kissed the cheek of one of his bosses, and strode toward the stage. The room dimmed. Spotlights rose. Applause thundered. And as Adrian gripped the microphone, I felt every nerve in my body ignite. This was it. The plan was ready. The trap was set. But as I looked across the room, I noticed something I had not planned for. Sitting at a table near the front, dressed in black silk, was the other woman. The secret wife. Adrian had invited her. And suddenly, the night held a complication none of us expected. The applause thundered around me, but my focus narrowed to her. The woman in black silk. Dark hair pinned elegantly, hands folded neatly in her lap, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips as Adrian waved from the stage. His secret wife. My stomach flipped, but not from fear. From fury. He had not just invited her, he had placed her front and center, like a hidden jewel he thought no one would dare to expose. It was arrogance wrapped in silk, sitting just 3 tables away. Mira leaned close, whispering without moving her lips. Do you see her? I nodded, jaw tight. Does she know about you? I do not think so. That was the risk. She was not just another pawn in Adrian's game. She was a person, deceived as much as I had been. If I moved too fast, she might turn on me, defending him out of shock. If I moved too slow, she could become his shield. On stage, Adrian tapped the microphone. Thank you, he said, his voice filling the ballroom. Tonight is not just about me. It is about vision. About leadership. About building futures. The crowd clapped again. He basked in it, eyes shining. I felt Myra's hand on my arm. Stay calm, she whispered. We adjust. We adapt. Adrian clicked to the first slide. A sleek chart appeared. Numbers, trends, all stolen from hours I had poured into late nights. My chest tightened. This was my work. My sacrifice. And he was selling it as his own. Slide after slide rolled forward, each one another theft dressed as brilliance. The audience leaned in, nodding, drinking in every word. Then he paused, smiling, and clicked to the final sequence. The slide that Marcus had tampered with. Any moment now, the truth would spill across the screen. But nothing happened. Instead, Adrian's face flickered into view with a bold caption beneath it, Visionary Leader. My blood ran cold. Mira froze beside the control booth. Something had gone wrong. The photos. The embedded files. They were not showing. I gripped the edge of my table, my pulse racing. Adrian's grin widened as he raised his glass. And that, my friends, is why we will dominate the market. Applause roared again. The timing was slipping away. The trap was failing. Then I felt eyes on me. The woman in black silk. Adrian's wife. She was not clapping. She was staring at me. Not with confusion, but with suspicion, as if she sensed the current beneath the performance. Our gazes locked, and something shifted. She tilted her head ever so slightly, a question unspoken. Did she know more than I thought? On stage, Adrian stretched his arms wide, enjoying his moment of triumph. He had no idea the rope beneath his feet was fraying. I had seconds to decide. Do I wait and hope Mira fixes the files? Do I stand up and speak without the safety of proof? Or do I gamble on the woman in black silk, the one who might be my unexpected ally or my downfall? The applause dimmed. The air grew heavy. Adrian raised the mic again. Before we close, I want to thank someone very special in this room. His eyes swept the crowd and landed on her. My wife. The audience gasped. People glanced at each other, whispering. They knew his public record. They knew he was supposed to be single. The woman smiled tightly and stood. The spotlight followed her. She walked toward the stage with the grace of someone used to playing a role. I felt my heartbeat pound in my ears. The plan had collapsed. But maybe, just maybe, a new one had just been born. The ballroom froze. Forks hovered midair. Glasses stopped halfway to lips. Adrian beamed at the crowd, proud, certain, oblivious. My wife, he repeated, gesturing toward the woman in black silk. The woman who has supported me in every late night, every risk, every success. Whispers rippled like cracks through glass. People leaned toward each other, murmuring questions. Wife? Since when? Is that possible? I stood, the scrape of my chair loud in the silence. My pulse thudded, but my voice came out steady. That is very interesting, Adrian, I said. Every head turned. The woman in black silk stopped at the base of the stage, eyes narrowing. Adrian's smile faltered. Celine, he said, forcing cheer into his voice. Do you want to say something? Yes, I replied, walking forward. Each step clicked against marble, steady and sharp. I want to thank you. Because tonight you saved me the trouble of introductions. I stopped beside the woman. She looked at me with confusion, then dawning recognition. I could almost hear the pieces falling into place. You see, I said, my voice carrying across the room, Adrian did not just have one wife. Gasps. A murmur swept the crowd. Adrian paled. I turned to her. How long have you been married to him? 7 years, she answered, her voice cutting through the silence like glass shattering. The audience erupted. People gasped, some covered their mouths, others shook their heads. Phones appeared, already recording. I raised my hand. The room hushed again. 7 years, I repeated. And yet Adrian proposed to me 2 years ago. He told me he was divorced. He told me he was free. He told me I was his future. The woman's eyes widened. She stumbled back, staring at him. You told me she was an investor, she whispered. Adrian's face drained of color. This is not the place. This is exactly the place, I snapped. You wanted the spotlight? Let us keep it right here. I glanced toward the control booth. Mira, calm as stone, gave a subtle nod. The projector flickered. My files appeared on the massive screen. Invoices, contracts, photographs of trips Adrian had claimed were business. Dates, bank withdrawals, overlapping anniversaries. The evidence glowed 10 feet tall, undeniable. Gasps turned into shouts. People pointed. Some laughed in disbelief. Adrian lunged toward the mic. These are fake. She is twisting everything. Fake. I cut in. My voice was quiet, steady. The crowd leaned in to hear. Then explain why your hotel receipts overlap with both our anniversaries. Explain why you paid for 2 engagement rings from the same jeweler. The woman turned, fury flashing in her eyes. 2 rings. Adrian's mouth opened, but no sound came. I stepped closer. Explain why your so-called business trips were deposits into accounts you never disclosed. Money from my savings. Money you drained without my consent. The audience buzzed louder, a storm of outrage and whispers. Phones filmed everything. His colleagues stared at him like he was a stranger. Adrian slammed the mic down, the feedback screeching through the speakers. You will regret this, he spat at me. All of you. But the room no longer belonged to him. Security moved closer. The woman in black silk crossed her arms and turned her back on him. Mira stepped onto the stage, calm and composed, her phone already dialing legal counsel. Adrian's empire of lies crumbled in real time, under the weight of truth too large to bury. I turned toward the audience, my voice clear. This is not about heartbreak. This is about theft. He drained my life, my love, and my savings. Tonight, I am reclaiming every piece of it and making sure no one else becomes his next victim. The ballroom erupted applause, outrage, voices rising together. And in the center of it all, Adrian's mask finally broke. Silence did not land. It shattered. A fork fell. A chair scraped. Phones rose. Faces turned to me, to the screen, back to Adrian. The last bank statement still glowed behind him. My name in the left corner. His shell company in the right. The transfer line between like a vein. The board chair stood. Calm suit. Steel eyes. Adrian, he said. Step away from the podium. He did not move. His smile held like wet paint. This is a misunderstanding, he said. A private matter. My fiancé is upset. I kept my hands at my sides. I am not your fiancé, I said. I am the account holder you bled dry. A ripple moved through the room. Not shock. Recognition. People know that shape. My attorney stepped forward. She had already emailed the packet to the board and to the bank. She handed a letter to the chair. Notice of fraud complaint, she said. Filed 2 weeks ago. Evidence attached. Chain of custody intact. Security took 2 steps toward the stage. They did not touch him. They stood where all could see. That distance spoke. Adrian raised his palms. Celine, think, he said. You will ruin both of us. I will correct the record, I said. You ruined the rest. He turned to the room. You know me, he said. I bring deals. I keep trains on time. This is theater. The chair took the mic. We suspend you from all duties, he said. Effective now. Please leave the stage. A murmur swelled. Not cheers. Not boos. The sound of a room done looking away. Adrian laughed, sharp and wrong. You cannot suspend what you need. A client rose. She had written the first check last year. My company pauses our contract, she said. We do not pay thieves. On the screen, my accountant's summary replaced the statement. The columns were plain. Date. Amount. Destination. Every destination tied to one company. Adrian's. The one he called dormant. The one I found in a footnote with my forged name beside it. Those signatures are fake, he said. Anyone can type a name. My signature is a signature, I said. Yours is a felony. 2 bank officers entered the back of the hall. Dark suits. Badges at the belt. The air sharpened. People made space. The chair looked to the officers. They nodded. One stepped out to call. The other stayed. Watchful. My attorney handed a second packet to the PR director. Prepared statements, she said. No spin. Only facts. Use the line about restitution. Adrian tried one last turn. He softened his voice. He reached for pity he had burned. Celine, please, he said. We had a plan. We were building a life. We were building your debt, I said. On my name. The word debt hung in the light. It did not need a spotlight. The officer returned and spoke to the chair. The chair lifted the mic. The bank will freeze the named accounts, he said. We will cooperate with law enforcement. For now, the evening is over. People stood. Some fast. Some slow. A few came to me. They did not touch me. They spoke. I am sorry. I did not see. I saw, and I froze. Every sentence laid one stone on a path away from him. Security guided Adrian down the steps. He did not fight. He did not speak. He did glance back at the screen. At the total in the corner. The months. The drain. He flinched. At the exit, a flash popped. He turned his face. It did not matter. His name had already filled the room. The chair faced the audience. If you have questions, he said, ask them in daylight. Not in whispers. The lights came up. The screen went dark. The hall changed temperature. Not panic. Decisions. I stepped off the stage. My attorney touched my arm. Well done, she said. Now we finish. Across the room, the finance director spoke to the officers. She handed over a folder. Her hands shook. She did not hide it. I turned toward the exit. As I did, Adrian's phone, still on the podium, lit with a new alert. One line glowed on the lock screen. Safe deposit box accessed. My breath held. Not fear. Calculation. He had more tucked away. Somewhere below street level. Somewhere the bank could reach. Somewhere I could reach through the law. I looked at my attorney. Did you see that? I asked. She nodded once. Tomorrow at 9, she said. We move. And then the siren grew near. The doors opened. Uniforms entered. The night did not end. It shifted. Time slowed. What waited in that box? Whose names were on those keys? And who else, beyond Adrian, had tied their future to my stolen past? Morning did not rise gently. It struck like a verdict. My phone buzzed before dawn. News alerts. Headlines. His name. The word fraud beside it. My name, too, but paired with victim and complaint filed. For once, the story was not tilted against me. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee cooling in my hands, watching the city shift from night to day. Sirens had come and gone the night before. They had not taken him then, but they had followed him home. Now the chase was public. At 8, my attorney arrived with a file thicker than any wedding magazine I had once collected. She placed it on the table between us. The freeze is confirmed, she said. Every account in his name is locked. The safe deposit box will be opened with us present. Bank officers. Law enforcement. You, if you want. I nodded. I want. She studied me. You do not have to face him again. I do, I said. He drained me in daylight. I will not hide while the record is restored. At 9 sharp, we met at the bank. Marble floors. Cold light. Cameras that blinked like unblinking eyes. Adrian sat at a distance, flanked by 2 officers. His suit was wrinkled. His hair uncombed. He looked smaller, like a man who had misplaced his script. The officer unlocked the box. The lid lifted with a groan. Inside lay folders. Dozens. Contracts, fake invoices, signatures traced and copied. My name again and again, slanted wrong but close enough to pass a glance. And cash. Stacks of it, rubber-banded, silent proof that theft does not vanish, it piles. The officer removed each folder, stacking them in evidence bags. My attorney spoke into the record. Chain of custody observed. Fraudulent signatures noted. Funds confiscated. Adrian leaned forward. Those are business drafts, he said, voice sharp. The officer cut him off. They are evidence. He leaned back, eyes darting to me. Celine, stop this. We can settle. You get your money. I keep my name. I met his stare. You sold my name to buy your lies. I am not bargaining with what is already mine. The bank manager entered then, holding a statement. Preliminary total recovered exceeds the reported loss, she said. Pending full audit, restitution appears possible. The words washed over me. Restitution. Possible. Not a promise. Not yet. But enough to breathe. By noon, the press had camped outside. Cameras waited. Microphones reached. My attorney raised her hand. No questions now, she said. Official statement tomorrow. Adrian tried to push through the crowd, muttering that it was all theater. One reporter asked if he had anything to say to me. He spun, eyes wild, and shouted, "She ruined me." The clip hit feeds within minutes. His voice ragged. His face twisted. My face calm. The contrast was the headline. Inside, my phone kept filling. Messages from colleagues, from distant relatives, from strangers who had read the articles. Some offered pity. Some offered praise. One line struck hardest. Thank you for not letting him keep the story. Evening came. I walked home slowly. The streets smelled of rain. Neon lights blurred on wet pavement. My reflection followed in puddles. Not smaller. Not erased. Whole. At my door, a letter waited. Not handwritten. Printed. Delivered by courier. From his attorney. One sentence. Our client is prepared to negotiate settlement terms in exchange for reduced charges. I folded it. I placed it back in the envelope. I did not tear it. I did not sign it. I set it on the counter like a piece of furniture I did not choose, but had no use for. Because tomorrow was not for settlement. Tomorrow was for conclusion. And when the courtroom doors opened, the record would not just show numbers. It would show names. My name, not his. The courthouse smelled of paper and polish. The kind of place where echoes carry farther than voices. I walked through the metal detectors with my attorney at my side, the file of evidence in her hands, my spine straight. For months, I had carried shame like a secret. Today, I carried proof. The courtroom filled quickly. Reporters lined the back. Adrian sat at the defense table, jaw tight, his suit pressed this time, but unable to mask the exhaustion in his eyes. He had built a life on charm and precision. Both had abandoned him. The judge entered. The gavel struck. Silence folded the room. Case of financial fraud, misrepresentation, and identity misuse, the clerk read. Plaintiff, Celine. My name, spoken aloud. Attached to truth. The hearing was not long. My attorney presented the timeline. Emails with forged signatures. Bank statements drained without consent. Vendor contracts rewritten to funnel payments into hidden accounts. The safe deposit evidence sealed and logged. She spoke with clarity, each word like a nail hammered into wood. Adrian's attorney tried to pivot. A misunderstanding between spouses, he said. Joint accounts. Shared ventures. Gray areas of trust. The judge stopped him. Fraud is not a gray area. It is a line. And your client crossed it. The verdict came swift. Restitution granted. Formal record of fraud. Restrictions on his ability to manage funds in any business for 10 years. His reputation, once polished to gleam, entered the record as tarnished beyond repair. When the gavel fell for the last time, Adrian slumped. He looked at me, his lips parted like he wanted to speak, but no words arrived. There are silences that wound. This one only freed. Outside, cameras swarmed. My attorney guided me to the podium. She nodded. It was my choice. Speak or walk away. I stepped forward. Microphones lifted. Lights burned. I was told to be patient, I began. I was told to be grateful. I was told to pick my battles. But this was not a battle. This was theft. And silence only feeds it. I let my breath steady. This is not about money. This is about recognition. About women whose work, names, and savings vanish because someone believes they can take without consequence. Today proves consequence exists. Today proves silence is not the only option. I did not shout. I did not cry. I spoke like a person who had finally been given back her own reflection. The questions shouted after me as we left. I did not answer them. I did not need to. The story was whole already. That evening, I returned home. I made tea. I opened the windows. The city air moved in, alive and ordinary. On my counter sat the envelope from his attorney, the offer to settle quietly. I tore it once, twice, until it was paper snow. I wrote one final note in my journal. When someone drains you, fill yourself with truth. It is heavier. It sinks them faster. Weeks passed. The money returned, piece by piece, through court-ordered transfers. I used it not to replace luxury, but to build foundation. I hired a financial advisor of my own. I set up a fund for women starting over. Every dollar became a boundary. Adrian faded from the news. A name that once opened doors became a warning whispered in boardrooms. The man who mocked patience now lived by restrictions. The man who drained accounts could not open one without oversight. And me, Celine. I was no longer a footnote. I was the author of my story again. So if you are listening, holding your own quiet ledger of small betrayals, let me say this. You are not wrong for seeing the cuts. You are not petty for naming them. And you are not powerless to end them. Sometimes revenge is not fire. It is light. Expose the truth. Let it stand. Watch it carry further than anger ever could. Now I will ask you, the person still here with me, have you ever caught someone draining not your money, but your energy, your trust, your worth? And what did you do when you realized? Tell me in the comments. Your voice matters. And if this story held you, if you felt the echo of your own battles in mine, stay with me here. Subscribe. Because there are more stories, more truths. And together, we will keep telling them until the world learns to listen. Because sometimes, the best revenge is not destruction. It is documentation. And today, documentation won.